forged from the love of liberty in the fires of hope and prayer, with boundless faith in our destiny, we solemnly declare. Side by side we stand, islands of this blue Caribbean Sea, this our native land. We pledge our lives to thee. Here every creed and race finds an equal place, and may God bless our nation. Here every creed and race find an equal place, and may God bless our nation.
Thank you very much. I'd like to invite at this time, no, you could remain standing, please. I didn't ask you to sit, please remain standing. At this time, I'd like to invite center stage Bishop Janki Ragunanan to lead us in an invocation.
Let us pray. Eternal and everlasting Father, Almighty God, we are gathered here today to discuss matters that are relevant to our society, to our nation, and by extension to the region. We ask you to guide us. We recognize outside of you and without you, there can be no tangible success. So today, we put you first, ahead. We ask you that you will bless every presenter. We ask you to bless the audience today, because we are here on a mission to ensure that our nation is run the way it ought to run. So bless every speaker and have your own way, we pray. Amen.
Thank you very much, folks. You may now be seated. Good people, the pleasure is mine to serve as the chairman of the proceedings this evening. And it is my sincerest wish that we would have not only presentations from the head table, but that we would have, as it were, active engagement from those of you who have taken the time, but more importantly, you have been able to find your way to this community center, which, given the calls I have been receiving, suggests to me that it is a difficult community center to find. Tim and I were able to use the waves, and it brought us right in front here. So I think more people should use waves, and they would certainly find it easier to find anywhere in Trinidad and Tobago. Why are we here? Denise, you want to tell me why we are here? And I guess the same could be said for all of us. But I don't know that my invitation came from any physical being. I want to believe I am here because I have been driven by a belief that my inning in terms of being someone concerned about the well-being and the health of the Republic must be coming to an end. And so I have accepted the invitation to be part of what I consider to be a team of noble, honest, sincere, and decent people who have a desire to see Trinidad and Tobago in a much better space than it is in at this time. I have a desire, really, as we make this journey. It is my sincerest hope, it is my desire that we will find many young people who would be prepared to abandon their routines and the things that give them joy at this time and want to begin to serve the Republic as those of us who are in this room have done for decades. When I look at the head table, everyone on that head table, barring Melissa, has been serving this Republic in one form or another for decades. And when I look at the audience, I feel the same way. But I think the time has come for us to find the young people to replace us. You know, I can't help but remark that every time I stand in a steel pan concert, and I want you to focus on that the next time you're so privileged. You go to anything about the pan, whether it's the panorama, or whether it's the pan on the avenue, or pan in the yard, wherever. You go and you see old people looking out at young people playing pan. You never see young people looking on at young people playing pan. In fact, the only time I see young people looking on at young people playing pan is whenever there's the school panorama. And that's a kind of anomaly. It's the same thing with our politics. And so, my journey on this occasion is to find good young people, spirited and concerned, blessed with the attributes of honesty, integrity, sincerity, nobleness, decency. And it is my sincerest hope that whatever I can do when they do come to us, I can keep them on the straight and narrow path and get them to understand it is not their mission to get rich by the politics. It is not their mission to steal from the unborn children, but it is their mission to do right by all manner of men. And when I say men, lest somebody hang me, I also mean women. That having been said, I want to say welcome to Hope. And in case somebody asks me before the night is out, what does Hope means? Because we have said to you proudly that Hope is the party for honest government. But what does Hope means? H represents honest government. O represents opportunity or opportunities for all. It is not as it has been existing for too long, when you get in government, only a few, some side getting, or the other side ain't getting, or in this incarnation, only the financiers getting. O represents opportunities for all. P means that it is going to be a people-centered, driven organization. People must come first for the first time at last in Trinidad and Tobago. And if Hope is guided and chosen to lead, and that is a real possibility, even though people can't see it at this time, it is our mission to show you that that is a real possibility. P means people-centered programs and development. P means that whatever we do, we cannot continue to ignore the realities that during COVID, thousands of children between the ages of 14 and 16 did not go to school for years. They have now exited the school system. What is going to happen to them? And so P, we have to be concerned about people. And E means we are going to create an economic transformation, the likes of which will set in train a platform for ongoing development. That is what hope means. So that, ladies and gentlemen, without detaining you, because we do have a team of excellent bats people. I don't want to say batsmen and then they always say, well, what about the woman? Bats people here this afternoon. I'd like to say to you, our first speaker is part of that group of truly good people amongst us. He is by profession an engineer. He is a builder. In this regard, his signature on buildings can be found across the world, be it New York or be it right here in Port of Spain. He has his signature on landmark buildings across the world. He has served as chairman of the Statutory Authority Service Commission. He founded his own party, the Democratic Party of Trinidad and Tobago, but he is now very much part of Hope. He writes frequently, often prescribing medication to heal our ailing republic. He's one of the principal architects of Hope, the Party for Honest Government. Let us welcome Mr. Steve Alvarez, our chairman interim. He's our interim chairman. Good people, let us welcome Mr. Steve Alvarez to the podium.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, everyone. Patriots. The fact that you're here today when you could have been somewhere else tells me that you have an interest in our country and in our future. And I want to congratulate you, first of all, for coming here, for showing up, for letting the world know that despite all the negatives that are happening, some people are still there with hope in their hearts. They're still thinking that things ought to be better. This morning, for example, I looked at the newspaper, and there were two women on the front page crying about someone that was shot on a construction site. And the pain was etched in their face. And I'm thinking that as a nation, we've come used to those faces, used to the tears, used to the blood, used to the person lying on the road. And now we just walk by. I want us to think about this country, and especially those of us who would have traveled to other countries, and think of what we have. I don't know how many of us have ever been privileged to go to the Gasperi Caves. If you did, you would be amazed. It's one of the most beautiful underground caves in the world. One of the few caves that have a pond, of blue water. I think Marshall Montano did a video of that one cave. Yet, there's a cave of not much significance in Barbados called the Harrison Caves. Chalk and cheese. But why don't we talk about our cave, our world. When you go to the beaches, you see people talking about beaches all over the world. Greece and in Europe, with the cold water, they are flooding the beaches because they promote their beaches. Tobago has some of the best beaches in the world. Maracas. I have been privileged, again, to walk all the way up to El Tocuch, to the top. And after 2 hours of walking, and I got up there, I'm looking around, and I could hardly see it because there's bushes all around. And I'm thinking, because I compared that to a summit in Japan that people were tracking up to. And when they got up there, there was a big sign, you've made it to the top. And there's a big viewing center and so on. Why won't we do anything about ours? It's beautiful. It's something that people all over the world would like to do. I went to the top of El Tocuch. We have a historical pitch lake that only the children of long ago, when they used to go on those excursions, would have taken a trip to the pitch lake. Many people in Trinidad and Tobago don't even know where it is. Our people in Trinidad and Tobago are among some of the most intelligent people in the world. Right now, there's a woman who emanated from Trinidad. I don't know if it's her parents or whoever it was, but she is now in the space program with NASA. We have had people in engineering, in management, all over the world. So our education is world class. And the other thing that we have that other countries in the Caribbean don't have is that we've always had enough money to get what we need done. So why? With so much blessings, with so much good things that we have, why it is that you can't have decent highways? That if you have to drive from Princestown to Moruga, you have to go through an hour of maneuvering through landslides and potholes. Why it is that after fixing that little bypass road in Mayaro, nobody thought, well, you know, there's thousands of people traveling between Sandy Grande and Mayaro, that we should pave the road. So they just left it there with rubble. I posted something on Facebook and a woman responded. She said, "Sir, every time I travel on that road, I swear my car is going to fall apart." But why? Why it is that when you go to small countries, large countries, wherever you go in the world, you can turn on your tap and get water. But here we have to say Monday, Tuesday, or maybe Wednesday. And where I live, they send little WhatsApp thing, water by you yet? Water reach yet? Where other places in the world you can get water? We have an abundance of water in this country. So why it is, for example, that we don't have more foreign investors in this country like we did before? Now, I'm saying all of this to tell you that there's one reason and only one reason why we cannot get this right. And that's because of the politics. You see, there's one political party that say, we is government. We is government. We reach, we are now. And the other one would come and say, it's we time now. So, but the policies, you don't hear, if you listen, if you read the newspaper and you see the arguments, you don't see arguments of one political party saying, oh, I think local government should be expanded so the community can have a say. And the next one saying, no, I don't agree on that policy, maybe we should do this or we should do that. You don't see those arguments. You see arguments of, he thief, he should be in jail, he's a nastiness. We at Hope want to change that. We want to say that we want to reflect the true spirit of Trinidad and Tobago. Who are we? We are not those bacchanalists. We are not those people who ignore the poor. We are not the person who just spend $10 million to do a bypass road and leave rubble in the road. We are different. But we are not just this group of people around here, you know. It's the good people that my chairman tonight started saying, good people of Trinidad and Tobago. He always talks about good people of Trinidad and Tobago. But Trinidad and Tobago has good people. And he talked earlier, when he started, he talked about H being for honest government. My God, when I was introduced to Hope, one of the first things that attracted me to this group was the people at the head table. There are people who are honest. When I talk to people, I say, Fazal is with us, and Tim is with us, and Louis is with us, and Melissa is with us. You can't hear one person, not one person. And we have Curtis here. I want to welcome Curtis because Curtis was part of that group that I would refer to. And we have Chris as well. And not one person will say, that corrupt man, that thief. No. So we have to sort of pull the nation into a direction of honesty and say, what you're seeing out there, that bacchanalist type of political, is not reflective of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. That is not a reflection. If there's a group of people who want to complain and talk about who thief and who did not thief, that is not a reflection of the nation. We have honest people, and we intend to bring back honest government. And when we talk about opportunities for all, which Louis talked about, what do you think we're talking about? We're talking about people getting their jobs based on merit, not based on party card, not based on who you know. There are a group of people in Trinidad and Tobago, because in my company we always laugh about that because we had a lot of interaction with them. They never line up at licensing to get their license. They never line up at passport. From the time the kids reach 18 or 19, they get firearms users permit dropped in their house. So this is a country where who you know depends on the quality of life that you have. And Hope is saying, no. The opportunities must be for everyone. And that's what that is. It's opportunities for everyone. But how do we get opportunities for everyone? You and I, all of us, have to get involved, have to participate. I am not disheartened by the amount of people here tonight that we still have a few chairs that are not filled. I'm not disheartened at all, because I genuinely believe that once the message gets out that there is a group of people who are sincere, who are dedicated to build a better nation, that the crowds will grow, that the people will come by. So the opportunities, one of the reasons why a lot of people don't join political parties, because they feel that to join the party, you have to know someone, and someone have to know you, and my contribution don't count, my name don't count. But in hope, the opportunities for better tomorrows would be based on your merit. And again, Louis talked about people-centered government. People-centered government. What does that mean? Is it just talking that we're a government looking after the people? There are groups of people in Trinidad and Tobago who are not looked upon with anything. They just discard them. Some of those are the elderly. You have people going to collect their pensions, and you see them lying up in the hot sun, waiting and waiting. Nobody cares about the elderly. There's no special provision so that they can get their passports. You know something? The elderly in Trinidad and Tobago, from the time you reach 60, you to get your driver's license. In this modern world, because you have 60. I play tennis in St. James, and I have some guys who are 75 that beat me in tennis. They run up and down. But those people, those young people, I consider 70 to be young now. Those people have to wouldn't get their license for more than 2 years. 2 years is what they give you. And then you have to go back every 2 years and say, listen, I'm here, I'm alive, I'm strong. And you have to go through that whole process. It should be the other way around. As you get older, you should spend less time in lines. So the hope is saying, listen, we are people-centered, and we're going to talk about it. We're going to care for our elderly, we're going to care for our poor, and we're going to care for the people in the country areas. Because right now, they just finished a big paving job in St. James, Smooth. But the people in Mayaro, in Guayaguayari, in Sandy Grande have to go through that rubber road. Because there's a group of people that are treated nicely, and a lot of people who are just totally neglected. So, when you think about it, there isn't much choice. If you want something you never had, which is good government and a caring government, if you want that in your life, in your family, in your home, in your community, if you want something you never had, you have to do something you never did before. which is to vote outside of your traditional voting patterns. If you continue to vote how you were voting all the time, you're going to continue to get what you always had. But if you want something new, you have to vote new. And if you want a better Trinidad and Tobago, you have to vote hope. Because hope will once again bring food production to Trinidad and Tobago. Let me tell you something. I'm a little bit old, but there's some the young people don't know. I'll tell you what some of the young people don't know. People like Richard and they, young folks, they don't know that there were times when you drove along the roads in Trinidad and there were crates of oranges and grapefruit. We were a major supplier of citrus. When you bought a can that says Trinidad grapefruit juice, it came from the field. When you say Trinidad orange juice, it came from the field, produced in Trinidad. Only the older folks could tell you that. So when you wanted coffee, we were a major producer of coffee. My first job was 50 cents a tin to pick coffee. 50 cents a petrol tin to pick coffee. Now you don't see a coffee tree in Trinidad. I had to go take my kids deep into one of our lands and say, this is what a coffee tree looks like, and this is what a coffee bean looks like. But we've destroyed that. There's our infrastructure, the beautiful infrastructure for Trinidad, the people leave to just disregard. I don't know how many of you would have ever gone to Moruga and see that hanging bridge. It's still strong today. All the bridge needs is some planks. There's a similar bridge in Blanchisseuse. You know what they did? They left them alone and they built an ugly looking Bailey Bridge and put it at the side of it. You could just change the planks, paint it up, and use it as a pedestrian bridge if you want. But that is because they don't care about our tomorrow. So I want to say to you that if you want to have the infrastructure that you want to talk about, you want to have a modern airport services, if you want a better Trinidad and Tobago, it's incumbent upon you, it's incumbent upon every one of us to revive that hope in our lives, in our family. And hope is where you have to vote. And I want to say that's beyond voting for hope, Participate now. Call your friends, your sisters, your brothers, your family, everyone in your community, and say there is this group of wonderful people who will offer us the opportunity for better tomorrows. I thank you.
I want to believe you didn't hear Mr. Alvarez. Give him a real round of applause. Thank you very much, Steve, and may I also thank Bishop Janki Ragunanan for the invocation. If my mother only knew that I didn't say thanks to the past, to the Most High, she would be very disturbed about that. And so I do apologize. Folks, we're moving along very quickly. I agree with you. She embodies the can-do spirit that encourages all around her to get up and get. You all remember that saying, get up and get? It is an old saying which came out of the mouths of the old people, get up and get. She has been nationally active in working with various organizations such as the Tabernacle of Prayer of Trinidad and Tobago Incorporated, and the operations mobilization with charitable and social welfare related activities. She has been a teacher in remedial English. She is the holder of a bachelor's in government, but she also holds a diploma in theology. So if you try to work out and you try to marry those two disciplines, and you try to work out what Trinidad and Tobago is in need of, you would appreciate that while we need to govern jam them dirty, we also have to understand the importance of theology in the context of the Republic of Mother Trinidad and Tobago. Good people, let us welcome center stage our lone female at the head table. And I promise you, as I go searching, I would look for more and more women. And so the next time we have a next meeting, I'll say, let us welcome the first of two or the first of three women at the head table. But let us welcome the lone woman at the head table, Ms. Melissa Ragunanan Nayamat. Let me hear it first.
Thank you so very much for that lovely introduction, Chairman. Good evening, everyone. I wish to thank you all for being here. It's lovely that, you could come out and really support Interim Political Leader, Mr. Timothy Hamel-Smith, all executive members of HOPE, online viewers, to the community of Gulfview, and by extension, the constituents of San Fernando West. I wish to say a pleasant good evening to you, and of course, I would like to sincerely thank you all for your attendance by show of support here as we have gathered for this meeting. I wish to be very brief tonight, and I would like to start by saying that I'm not here tonight to remind you all of the various ills and challenges that we are facing as a country, nor am I here to speak about the specific problems that you as the residents face on a daily basis within your community. We are all aware that everyone already has knowledge of all the negatives and problems that we as citizens face within our country. However, I am here to motivate you and to give you a sense of hope that change is constant and that change may be a hard and considered a dreary task, but it is not impossible. I am here on a mission to give my plea to the youths of this country and to why the young people should be more politically inclined and involved, and why too you as young people should try to get on board with us as we attempt to harness the change that we would like for our beloved Trinidad and Tobago. Brothers and sisters, you see, being a youth myself, let me expose you to some of the facts that you may not know before I move into my plea. Firstly, according to the World Bank Organization, it was stated that the most vulnerable persons to poverty within Trinidad and Tobago were classed as the younger generation, being 35 years of age and younger, as they were directly affected by poverty, either from birth or being hereditarily poor, and by means of a lack of job opportunities available. Secondly, the closure of most of the National Energy and Skills Centers training campuses within Trinidad has left many young people who may not have had the opportunity to further their academics, but yet possess great skills, unable to certify themselves in the skills that may have enabled them to become young entrepreneurs in the micro and small business sectors. Thirdly, according to the Global Economy Survey, we see that Trinidad and Tobago is suffering from a rapidly growing brain drain effect. Their scoring system, out of a score of 10 being the highest, has placed Trinidad with a score of 7.2 out of 10 in the year 2022. And right now, it stands at 6.9 out of 10. This year only, and we're only in the month of March. Life has become much too challenging for young persons to bear. We see that more and more young people are turning to a life of crime because realistically, crime pays much more than what a job can possibly offer a young person here if you don't have the academics. We see that young people are becoming more and more depressed because it is almost impossible for a young couple to even begin to dream about owning their own homes or their own land because the cost of living is way too high. And they are pressured with bills and overwhelming expenditure. More and more, we see that young persons have been committing suicide due to the stress of daily life in Trinidad and Tobago. We spend more time being committed to our jobs and extra time being caught in severe traffic while we burn and consume more gas that has already risen year after year on the worst roads that probably exist in the more developed islands in the Caribbean region. And yet, after going through a day like this, we are really just visitors in our own homes, spending less and less time with our families and our children. Brothers and sisters, I can go on and on about the many things that are affecting the youth in this land, but in short, I must tell you that it is quite clear that we stand at a point where it has reached survival of the fittest. Or if you are unable to have the help meet and the support of goodly parents or family, it is a matter now of crap or smoke your pipe. Allow me to give a short testimonial. When I graduated from the University of the West Indies in the year 2012, I had chosen to pursue a bachelor's degree in political science. God and family here today be my witness, because what I'm about to tell you happened, it's true. Out of the hundreds of graduates from the Faculty of Social Sciences, there were only 3 students that chose to pursue that same degree. 2 of the students were people who were much senior to me, and of course there was myself being the youngest. It was such a sad position that even on graduation day, the Chancellor noted this same exact scene that I am saying here today to you, that he was giving a sincere appeal for young persons to get more involved in politics and the politics of your country, and that the future of the country depended on us, the younger ones, and that we needed to work towards the betterment of our society. I lay my case here by saying that politics in this country is not what it ought to be. Politics has become a monster that now drives people away, setting no good example to the youth who may have good intentions and a true desire and passion to help serve the people. I personally got into politics because I saw politics and governance as a national avenue to help persons, coming of course from a very charitable background since being a child. However, I have had to deal with past hurts I have had to deal with past hurts where you could have the education, you could have the desire, you could have the heart, you could want the change. But you know what? Politicians today, they don't want that. It is now about who is within their clique. It is about who has money and can help finance. It is about who parents are financiers, which strings are being pulled, and who has the endurance to continue turning a blind eye to the internal wrongdoings without saying a word. On one hand, we have a failing government with respect to crime, employment, infrastructure, the education system, healthcare, you name it. And on the other hand, we see another party who has in-house fighting, a lot of political bacchanal, as Trini people would like to say, and of course the death of true democracy and growing dictator-like attributes. I call upon you, young people who are under the sound of my voice. Just as I have taken the stance and a firm decision to help build my country, that if you have a heart for the many children who will sleep hungry tonight, that if you have a heart for the many people who cannot afford to feed their families tomorrow, that if you have a heart to protest and demand that our parents and grandparents receive better health care and are not treated like animals waiting for days or hours to receive a bed at the hospital, then I urge you to get on board with us. I urge you to join a political party where the leaders are about honesty, the leaders are humble, the leaders are filled with humility. The leaders are here to listen, and they are not about the cliques or the string pulling, but that everyone is considered to be on an equal playing field. I urge you to join with us because our leaders need your help to persevere and to press on in this journey. It is high time that our youth stand up and join together and take our nation forward, to become a nation of prosperity, to become a nation of discipline, respect, and one where the politics of this land is no longer a joke, but has integrity, honesty, and transparency involved. Good decisions are made by good people, and I have faith that there are still many good people out here who are waiting for that right avenue in which they can help in moving our nation forward. Young people, it is important that you understand where I am coming from, because if you fail to act, it is to the detriment of our children, our parents, our grandparents, our friends, our spouses, and all our loved ones. I have a 2-year-old daughter, and I always think about the life that she may have to face in the future, knowing how things are now. Could you imagine what it will be then? The future looks so bleak that if I am able to help change our society for a better tomorrow, then I will do it for her. Our ship is sinking, and we are running out of time. Our future depends on you. The lives of our children's future depend on us. If we, as young individuals, do not stand up and come together, then who will? I urge you, as the infamous Mahatma Gandhi once lived and said, be the change you want to see. Brothers and sisters, I thank you.
Now, in every good program, you must have a commercial or two. And so, I want to say to you, the Party for Honest Government, we are resolute. We are concerned that the majority of citizens want to reclaim Trinidad and Tobago from the desperation of complacency, crime, and corruption. We truly believe that responsible citizens like you, all of you here this evening, you're ready to do what is necessary to reclaim the Republic from complacency, crime, and corruption. We ask you to join Hope in this battle that we have undertaken. This is the only political party with a vehicle that is willing, able, and ready. And if you check that out, that willing, able, and ready means war. Willing, A, W for willing, A for able, and R for ready. That is for war. And together in this war, only an army fueled by hope can ensure peace. All of us must be ready for this battle. And believe me, hope is on the front line. Hope is here, and hope is active. So we ask you to join our ranks. Ensure we achieve our full potential and reverse Trinidad and Tobago's descent into the abyss from which there will be no return. I'm signing off this declaration on behalf of Timothy Hamel-Smith, the political leader interim, Steve Alvarez, chairman interim, Ms. Ragunanan Nayamat, and she's really the lady for all seasons. But she's really responsible for youth affairs and youth development. And of course, Mr. Faisal Karim, who is our party organizer. That having been said, the next speaker really needs no introduction. He really needs no introduction, as his long and illustrious career both as a jurist and a public servant is well documented. His track record for seeking to inform and to advise and advocate on matters of constitution and its application to our daily lives is unparalleled. Perhaps his stewardship of the Senate as President of the Senate is something that stands out in the minds of most people, as we often seek to compare the office of the President of the Senate from one period to another. When you reflect on his stewardship of the Senate, you grasp how quickly it is that things can be good if we have good people administering over our affairs. And so, good people, I ask you to join me in welcoming our interim political leader, Mr. Timothy Hamel-Smith, who, as we all affectionately call Tim, he is coming to talk about eliminating crime and corruption within the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. Put it together and welcome.
Thank you, Louis, our chairman, and thank you for being here today. Good people, good Trinis, good patriots of Trinidad and Tobago. As we gather today, I heard Louis say what HOPE stands for. The H, the O, the P, and the E. And that was followed by Steve emphasizing what each of those elements of hope represent. And as I thought about that, what occurred to me is that hope really is the alpha and the omega of where we need to be. Because if we don't start with honest government, then the opposite of that is corruption. And if you have corruption and you have crime, you will never reach economic transformation. And you have no other than Lee Kuan Yew told us, a corrupt country will never be successful. So tonight I want to help you to join the dots so that you recognize how we've reached where we are today, and how crime and corruption, the tentacles of it, have reached into every corner of Trinidad and Tobago. And that is crime and corruption which are preventing us from prospering. So, you take it, I take it as a given that you understand that everything we do in Trinidad and Tobago is colored by corruption. It is referred to as who you know and who knows you gets you what you need. But if you look at corruption and wondered where the genesis of it is and what have we done to eliminate corruption so far, I would start with the procurement legislation. For years, years upon years, decades, we have been saying we need procurement legislation. And we got procurement legislation. And then it was gutted. And that wasn't satisfactory. The politicians then said, we're not implementing it. Because if you don't have proper procurement, then a country does not get value for money. Our tax dollars go down the drain, or they go to financiers, or they go to friends and family, and just nepotism reigns. And that is the picture of Trinidad and Tobago today. And you will notice that the government do not want procurement, so it starts there. And why it starts there? Because the financiers of our political parties do not want procurement, because procurement allows them to benefit from contracts, to be at the top of the list when billion-dollar contracts, not million, not hundreds of thousands, but billion-dollar contracts are given out. So why would they, who benefit from that, want procurement oversight, want a determination, what is the best contract proposal that has been put forward that would benefit Trinidad and Tobago at the best price and the best value? They don't want that. And the politicians are fine. Why are they fine with that? Because where do you think their political finances come at election time? I mean, they love elections, you know. It is a time when politicians crow. And of course, because we don't have political financing regulation, it means that I can give as much as I want, and some of it, of course, doesn't go necessarily into the party. It's splintered into politicians again, so that they have a desire to maintain the system as it is, to maintain the system so that they can generate the contracts, so that the contracts would allow them to get financing to run their parties. And we spend, as a small country, literally hundreds of millions at every election. It is amazing, amazing. And what does what I refer to as the financing mafia represent? What do? They not only get the contracts. Who do you think is operating the system by which cocaine is transshipped through Trinidad and Tobago? Trinidad and Tobago becomes a transshipment portal. You know, the cocaine isn't coming into Trinidad, you know. They're not seeing the cocaine. It's moved from one ship to another ship and lands up in Europe, lands up in the United States, Canada. It doesn't come into Trinidad. So that's a high-level drugs that fuels the funds that get back into the political system. And at the lower level, what you have is politicians giving out to gang leaders $1 million, true enough, funds, and they spread that too in bringing in guns and in bringing in marijuana. And that allows them, those guns allow them to control their turf. Because if I'm selling my marijuana, I want to control the area. I want all the money that this area generates. And if you step across the line, you're going to be murdered. So, you know, you wonder how come corruption and violent crime are joined at the hip. Because the guns that our gang leaders need are used to shoot their opponents, their competitors, to put them out of business. That's what it is all about. And why do the politicians want that? Well, when you think when election time comes, who galvanizes the people on the ground to get the votes? The gang leaders, because they can pass out money and spread money around the community in around election time. Everybody's happy. They jump on the bandwagon and they vote for the party that spread the money. And all of it starts with corruption. So how does Hope say that they're going to bring corruption to an end? So you see this gallery in Parliament. Do you notice it? One party saying, you know, let's bring in legislation, no bail. And the other saying, no, you mustn't do that. That's all that goes on. Have you seen any policy other than wanting to pick up somebody? That's a police state, you know. I pick you up, I say that I'm accusing you of this crime, and I'm keeping you in jail. 15 years, you're in the remand yard, and not a hearing. That's injustice. That's what we've done. So you created more injustice within the system in order to have this work the way the politicians want. And all they can put forward is, let's have a bail bill. That is going to bring an end to crime, violent crime. That is only creating more injustice in the system, not less crime. So there are two things, a number of things. We won't give you tonight all the things that we think can be done in order to eliminate crime and corruption. So when we look at corruption first, of course you just saw that, I mean, it's happening over and over again. Mr. Pandey's case just collapsed. And the justice system is collapsing too, because it isn't working. What do we need in order to make a justice system work as it should? Well, I'll tell you what they do in jurisdictions where corruption is fought and people make a jail for corruption. You see, we inherited a system where you had a DPP and you had a police, and never the two shall meet except to pass papers and say whether my evidence is sufficient. But what they've come to recognize in other jurisdictions is that you need to have your investigator working in close tandem within the same office as the prosecutor. And that is why what you have in countries which have the same system as us, yes, you have a DPP, but you also have what is called a serious fraud office. And that serious fraud office is there only to look at matters of serious fraud and corruption. That's it. That's what they do. And what you have within that office are forensic investigators. But you have another problem in Trinidad and Tobago. Because we have a small society. Understand, everybody knows everybody else. And if I don't know somebody, I call in somebody who knows somebody. So that's why you see that the Coast Guard, if they held somebody with drugs, what they will do, they will get a call, stand down. And because we have to recognize the limitations that we face. And what I would like to say to you is we require a special prosecutor who is independent of Trinidad and Tobago society. And therefore, that person must come from elsewhere. And I wouldn't allow him a term of more than 5 years, because after you spend 5 years in Trinidad and Tobago, you know everybody too. So you get into the system. So you need an independent special prosecutor who is given the resources to engage the services contractually of forensic investigators. I understand, as a small country, we cannot afford the same number of forensic investigators you might get in the metropolis. I understand that. But those services can be retained on a case-by-case basis. by contract. And we are doing it, you know. But the politicians only want to do it for who they want to attack. Right now, currently we do it, but it's under the control of politicians. So I'm not going after my people, but I'm going after, and all of it has to do with elections. I smear one party in order for me to look good. So you allow a special prosecutor, but you know, to get that special prosecutor, you need procurement. You notice they cut law out of the procurement legislation, but you need that, because who is going to appoint the procurement legislator? Somebody jumps up and says, well, I want a nice fella who wouldn't give me any trouble. But you need to have proposals that are monitored and under the eye and the gaze of the procurement regulator. So you get really an independent special prosecutor whose realm relates to corruption and serious fraud. But you have to go beyond that, in Trinidad and Tobago anyhow. We have to eliminate juries as well. I don't know if you noticed that when you have a jury, the system is horrendously, artificially created difficulties embodied in it. And within the system of juries, I don't know if you ever follow these criminal trials, but they have to put the juries out of hearing every now and again because a legal point is being made. But when you come to serious fraud, you really think the jury will have the ability to understand the forensic evidence that is going to be produced in order to demonstrate the crime that was committed. And our judges are much better placed to do that than any jury. And what we need to do is to dedicate just one judge, maybe two judges, depends on the load, the workload, to be in charge of serious fraud and corruption. You also need, therefore, to streamline, to make sure this takes place speedily, because justice delayed is justice denied to everybody, whether you're a defendant or you are the state. And you need, through that mechanism, not only to eliminate juries, but you need to eliminate preliminary proceedings. Anybody ever follow that? It's really two trials, you know, trial 1 and trial 2. But we have tried in Trinidad and Tobago to eliminate, and what happened is, if you take a mass of matters as we have accumulated over the years and dump it on the judiciary, the system will collapse. Hence the reason why I'm taking a select slice called fraud and corruption and put it there with one judge handling the matter. No jury, no preliminary proceedings. You go straight to court. And there's one further thing, but this is perhaps a more long-term issue, because you will know that in any of these matters, everybody brings a constitutional motion. My rights and freedoms have been infringed. So what happens? You move from the magistrate's court where the preliminary inquiry is going on, and you bring this motion which has to go to the High Court, and then I appeal it to the Court of Appeal, and then I reach the Privy Council, and 5 years later I come back down to the beginning. Hence the reason why that matter could take 17 years. And I think up something else, and I say I have another constitutional motion to begin, and take another 5 years. And you wonder how any system that creaks and groans like this could ever be successful, could ever deliver justice. What I would like to suggest, and as I say, I understand this is more long-term, we should make the Caribbean Court of Appeal an originating court solely for constitutional motions. So you want to bring your constitutional motion, and everybody's entitled to have their best defense, but you begin it in the Caribbean Court of Justice, and if you want to appeal, you go to the Privy Council. A much speedier process. so that you don't slow down and everything doesn't grind to a halt. But more than that, can you imagine if you had a history, let's say, of 5 years, seeing how many appeals went from Caribbean Court of Justice to the Privy Council? You could determine, hey, you know what? Not many people go into the Privy Council because they're happy with the Caribbean Court of Justice. Or maybe it's the reverse, and we keep the Privy Council, but at least you had hard evidence on whether to determine if or not you're going to end the Privy Council. So that is a long-term measure, but I am saying to you, the special prosecutor, the end of juries, the end of preliminary proceedings for serious fraud and corruption will bring that process and will cause people who are guilty to pay the punishment. And that is the only way, when people see punishment coming closely to crime, that then, in fact, you start to make a change. And then you have violent crime. What violent crime is committed in Trinidad and Tobago without a gun? So why don't we have a gun court? All I have to do is demonstrate that X had a gun and he had no license for it. Is that hard? I don't have to prove where he was, where he wasn't, how it happened. No witnesses. I pick up Mr. X. He had a gun, he doesn't have a license, and I charge him in the gun court. And in the gun court, likewise, you can have it in the magistrate's court, which doesn't have a jury, which doesn't have a preliminary proceedings, and therefore it's quick and swift justice. But if you want to keep the indictable part of that to go to the High Court, you likewise eliminate the jury, eliminate the preliminary proceedings, and make it swift justice. Swift justice is justice for everyone, including the defendant. And unless you do that, guns will proliferate in Trinidad and Tobago, because I indicated to you, that's how the politicians like it. Because in fact, the gang leaders are getting these multi-million-dollar contracts and using the funds to bring in the guns, which we don't manufacture in Trinidad and Tobago, in order to preserve their territory. That's an understandable position, but not acceptable. You have to prosecute them, and you have to have punishment swiftly imposed upon people who, and if all you have to do is the fact that you have a gun and you have no license, you could determine in advance is 10 years or 15 years or whatever you think that person deserves. And that's how, in a just manner, you get people in jail, as opposed to a bail bill where I decide you're wrong and you go in jail. The police determines that. You can't have a police state like that. You need to have an entity which is seen as independent making that determination. And there are many other things we can do to overhaul the criminal justice system. But the politicians have no interest in that. They have no interest in that. They would like it as it is. We like it so. More than everything else, it's the politicians who like it so. Because that's where the funding comes in, where it is coming. So if, as I suggest, you want to reach economic transformation, the omega, because all of us want to live in a country where we feel secure, where we're not terrified by home invasion, where we could carry on our business and seek to achieve the potential that we have. All of us get that potential. All of us benefit from that. And the only way you're going to reach there is hope. That's what I'm telling you today. That's the message I have for you. Hope will take you there. Because neither the other parties, I haven't seen any party present anything. If you tell me that anybody has presented any plan which would make a difference to crime and corruption, without which we cannot get economic transformation, then I'll back off. But if you want a nation where we can all prosper, where everybody is a meritocracy, where everybody has an equal opportunity, then I say hope is the only answer. And we ask you to take that message back, you see. Because if everyone brings 5 people, and those 5 people bring 5 more, we will grow to the point where we can make that difference. We ask you to walk the journey with us. And we will take Trinidad and Tobago to a new height. We will achieve what we are destined to become. We will have what we all know inwardly Trinidad and Tobago has the potential to become. And that is the only way, where we start by ending what is holding us back. Thanks very much.
Now, I'm sure this is a kind of surprise. This is an aberration. Normally, when political leaders get up to speak at meetings in Trinidad and Tobago, it is really, as it were, a marketplace, bacchanal and confusion. So it is really a happy moment when you could hear a political leader of a party addressing an audience and not getting into he say and she say and them say. And so I want to thank our political leader for a very inspirational and informative presentation. Let us put it together again for him. Now, friends, when you came in, we asked you to register. And one of the documents I hope you would have been exposed to is a document which asks you to pledge. Because you can't run no political party, especially if you're talking about honest government, and hope that the financiers will come to you and give you checks. In fact, if I am to remember correctly, Dr. Rowley said $1 million is fit in a carry box in cash. So nobody's giving us that. So I'm saying to you, we are asking you to pledge. You get the form. I would like you to take a form, think it out, and pledge how you want to be part of this grand and important exercise in transforming Trinidad and Tobago. When the history of Trinidad and Tobago is written, researchers and authors alike will be forced to devote more than a paragraph, more than a page, to the long and valuable list of contributions transcending a range of disciplines made by the next speaker. His service as a minister of government stands out. He's been one of the guiding lights of our team, Hope. We at Hope are happy to have him. We feel blessed to have him as part of our team. He brings a light to the presence, with his presence at any meeting. Our next speaker is Faisal Karim, who was the former Minister of Tertiary Education, who will be dealing with education and jobs in the context of a country that is in both need of education and jobs. Put your hands together and welcome our next speaker, Mr. Faisal Karim.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I just want you to know that all that you have said about me is now on record, so that in the future when I'm looking for a recommendation, I'll be coming to you. My colleagues at the head table, my brothers and sisters who are here with us this evening, at our first meeting at this location in San Fernando, and in San Fernando West to be exact, I want to join with all of my colleagues in welcoming you and thanking you for coming. You may not know who is seated here, but in our midst we have two persons from Sangre Grande who drove all the way to be here. We have one from Arima. We have people in Port of Spain, Diego Martin, from all the way in south. And I think that we'll want to pay special tribute to all of you, some from Central, for attending this meeting, and I ask you to give yourselves and join with me a round of applause. Only recently, about a week ago, we were very privileged to learn about the two presidents medalists at Cape. I want to take this opportunity, as I would have been involved in all aspects of education, to congratulate the two girls from St. Augustine Girls from Warrenville, one, and the other girl from Holy Faith Convent in Couva, but from Enterprise. And that is the constituency I think I would have represented, and I see one of my colleagues here from that area of Enterprise. So as you congratulate them, I want to also, as I'm speaking about education, that we take lament, and we are very disturbed when we look at the education system in some parts, and particularly the videos that are going viral with deviance and indiscipline and physical fights at our secondary schools. There's no doubt that something has gone awry and wrong, not only in terms of what is happening in the school, but when I did my diploma in education, we were told that the home is the first school. And therefore, when you come to these meetings, people say, well, we're hearing plenty talk, but we're hearing plenty solution. So I give you a solution immediately. And when we get into government, one of the things that we will do and going to do will be to ensure that we return spirituality, ethics, and discipline into all our schools at all levels. And that could be done. We are going to be witnessing students writing the SCA exams very soon. And one of the things that caught my attention this week as well is two articles. And I want to start by making reference to them, since my remit is to talk about education and jobs. But while I'm talking about education, I want to pay tribute to my friend. We went to Presidential College San Fernando for 7 years together. And he was the chairman of the University of Trinidad and Tobago, Mr. Curtis Manchun. When you look at San Fernando now and San Fernando West, and you pass by Sapa, we used to have a bustling environment of knowledge and education at Sapa. That has closed down. As I talk to you today, 8 years ago, we had completed in part and to start the Faculty of Law of the University of the West Indies at the Penal Bay campus 8 years ago. Whenever I pass on that road going to DB, it breaks my heart to see even what the pavilion looks like. If you see 4 square buildings, those buildings we constructed to hold 600 dormitory rooms. So that students from the south, from north, from Cedros, from Guaya anyway, could have come and stayed there and go home on weekends. It is in bush, abandoned. But I give you this assurance as well. If we have anything to do with decision making in the future, we will open the University of the West Indies South Campus. And not only will those 124 acres of land which we have there be utilized for UWI, the plan was for us to use that to not only have law but other faculties. I see one of my friends here, a very distinguished scholar and practitioner, an expert in the energy sector, who worked for many years with BP. We're going to bring some of those programs closer to where the natural resources of this country are. We are going to put COSTAT on that facility. We already constructed a moot court. We're going to have, believe it or not as well, Roy Tech was going to be there. People do not know. The predecessor to that campus started at Naparima Boys College. And do you know what were the classes we had there? UWI classes with degree. And Roy Tech now continues to operate there. While we have grass taking over brains in this country. But I tell you something, just as we opened the UTT Aviation Campus in Camden and we said, the slogan was from cotton cane to flying plane. We'll move from the grass fields of the South Campus to the brain fields of Trinidad and Tobago. You know, when I have something here and I think I want to even use it. I'm so passionate about education and training. I am seeing an article by Joshua Simongal talking about unemployment rate leaves people distressed. You know, when we go to school, one of the things we do when we graduate is say, well, you're looking for a job or work. And when you finish that, you're looking to start a little family. But you can't do all that if you're not working. Sparrow said, you can't make love on hungry belly. So when you finish and you graduate, there are no jobs. Yesterday and today, I want to look at the papers tomorrow. You may see an article coming out in the papers tomorrow on the nursing brain drain. These 2 days, Friday and Saturday, being held in Port of Spain, there's a company that came to Trinidad to do what? To recruit our nurses to work abroad. And do you know, while we opened the El Dorado Nurses Training Academy for Allied Health, because that was a facility utilized only by a class of 10 people practicing music at the El Dorado Girls Youth Camp. And when I asked for it, and they asked me, what you're going to do with it? I said, we're going to train nurses. And we had a cooperation between COSTAT and UWI. We were turning out thousands of nurses. Do you know what has happened? They have closed that down. I'm seeing Dr. Rampol here with us. Do you know what they have done since? They say they're going to move it to John Donaldson in Ryson Road. Well, it's still on the move. Nothing is happening. So when I looked at that article by Joshua Simongal, it bothered me. Because if you ask persons, and I'm sure you may know young persons who may talk to you and say, help me get a job now. And you tell them, because Kishore Satram from Sangre Grande was in charge of it. The only place people find comfort and solace is let's go and apply for an OJT job, on the job training for 2 years. You can't even get that. You know what is the success of OJT? You have to go and find an employer who will accept you and tell the office, I have somebody who will take me to work. Is that what we are coming to in this country? And as I see Howard Maraj here, in coming down the road, he reminded me that I should say something. So I'll say it now because he's going back up with me. He was a counselor, an insurance executive. He said, I want you to say when you stand up to talk, that hope is not about dividing. Hope is about uniting. We're not here to split any vote, to allow anybody to continue to emasculate and to take us down the political precipice of this country. We're not here to malign. We're not here to bad talk. We're not here to undermine anybody. We are here to unite once again this country to take us forward. I am reading President Irfan Ali. Mr. Chairman, I want to ask you to give me a note to stop. Whenever I'm ready, you will look at the time. I am reading President Irfan Ali of Guyana. You know what he's announcing? For International Women's Day, that Guyana will train 500 women in HET. So let me tell you what HET is. Roll, heavy equipment training. So I called somebody at a company. You know, you can't say which company you're calling these days. The next thing somebody will say, is he talking to somebody inside there? I called somebody at a company that I know well. I said, I want you to tell me something. Are you involved in heavy equipment training in Guyana? Yes. We opened the first drilling academy at UC St. Madeleine of the NESC. Apostle Janki Raghunandan was one of our campus managers. And I had planned that in spite of the fact that we were going to drill oil here and continue to do so, when I saw what was happening in Guyana, I had planned to get permission to take the oil rig to Guyana to train the people there in oil and gas. And we in CARICOM, and we our brothers keepers. So when I look at another article, and it says that we have a new category or categories of workers to come into Trinidad. The CARICOM lists have moved from 5 categories to 12. I have no problem with CARICOM. I love CARICOM. But I ask the question, if this government is allowing people to come in to do various types of jobs, what about the jobs for our nationals in this country? You know, I have never seen so many people standing outside of a supermarket. Right. Time. Right. What? 2 minutes. Standing at the side of a supermarket with a placard, begging for money, begging for food. Let me tell you something. I am the person that is responsible for constructing what is now called the Ministry of Agriculture in Chaguanas. It was never that. It was the Ministry of Tertiary Education and Skills Training. And I got 15 acres of land where that building is. That building is sitting as the Ministry of Agriculture, Land and Fisheries. You ever pass and see a bundle of bodi growing there? You ever see a tomatoes tree growing there? And as I conclude, I just want to end by answering the question I'd asked before. As I talk about people coming from all over the country, we have a person here who is with us from Miami, and I told my colleagues that we will be asking for international support and party groups in New York, in Toronto, in Miami, in London to start with. And therefore, as I conclude, I don't want to just end with a lot of passion and rhetoric. I want to tell you, because people ask, they'll say, so you're talking, you're singing good, but what's the solution? What will hope do? So I'll tell you some of the things I'll recommend to my colleagues for Hope to do. We are moving from a generation of resignations to a generation of migration. So Hope, I will propose to Hope that we give tax breaks to the private sector companies that employ university and other graduates. Secondly, I recommend we provide incentives for higher education and post-secondary education. Institutions that produce graduates are in high demand skills. It's not just about doing courses, but contributing to the economic development with the necessary skills. Thirdly, we'll expedite remote work policies. Tim was asking about policies, both within the public and private sector, to cater for graduates living in rural communities and unable to take up jobs due to the cost of transportation. Fourthly, we will strengthen the digital infrastructure. You know, you're hearing so much talk in this country about digitization and this and that. Tim will tell you the trauma he has to go through to do registration for certain things. We will also ensure that more services are acceptable to provide for SME growth, small, medium enterprises. We'll enter into negotiations with CARICOM for reciprocity of mobility for the same classification of workers to move across the region. Not only what you have coming here, but what we could send for you too. And finally, we'll educate the employers on the CVQ. I want to tell you, and I want to say it loud and clear, the first country in the Caribbean to initiate and to release and to award the CVQ, which is the Caribbean Vocational Qualification, is Trinidad and Tobago. And it did that through CXC. And a lady who lives in South, and she now, I don't think she lives here anymore, she was the registrar of CXC, Dr. Lucy Stewart. Now CVQ is the yardstick for us moving through the vocational sector. So I want to thank all of you for coming, for listening. I want to thank the chairman for giving me 2 minutes extra. And we pray that Almighty God will bless us, that we'll move from strength to strength. My wife will always say, where the twos and the trees are gathered. And we'll move from the twos and the trees to the multitudes in the near future. I thank you.
I told you is written, not just a paragraph, not just a page. Put it together for Faisal Karim. We come to the most important part of this meeting. And this is the part of the meeting where you will say to us what is in your heart, what you desire most for this beloved Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. We all know the challenges. We all know the problems. We know that crime, corruption, and criminality seems to be the new order driven by the culture of money that has taken hold of Trinidad and Tobago. Let me say to you, you've heard some of what we are contemplating. And as the wagon of hope rolls across Trinidad and Tobago, we will share more and more about how we propose to manage this country, how we propose to lead this country, and how we propose to use new and dynamic programs and policies and plans to make life richer for every citizen, but above all, how we plan to protect the resources, the money of the unborn children of this country. I now invite from the floor any questions, comments you may have, and I'd like us to do it with law and order. So if you have a point you wish to make, just raise your hand and we would bring the microphone to you. Sir, we'd like you to just give us your name, and so we'd have a good appreciation of what is going on.
Okay, the name is Loch Rampasad.
Could you say it slowly?
Loch
Rampasad.
Rampasad. Well, I came in late. I'm sorry about that. I apologize for that. And as a result of being late, I missed part of the contribution of the gentleman. And second, I don't know your name.
Mr. Hamill Smith.
Mr. Hamill Smith.
He's the interim political leader of the party.
Okay. Yeah. And he was dealing, I guess it would have been under the banner of crime. He was dealing with what this grouping is offering or intending to offer in that regard. And as far as recommendations and so on for the judiciary or judicial aspect was concerned, fine, right? But I noticed that there was no attention paid to a very important institution where crime is concerned, the police service. You know, there was no, well, proposals or anything regards, because I think everybody more or less knows that that's a severely compromised institution in this country. So that's my observation I want to make. Thank you.
We'll give you an answer shortly. Any other questions, comments?
Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to make...
Could you give us your name?
My name is Richard Deming. I came down from Diego Martin. People have been asking what change is coming, and I'd like to make two suggestions. While my wife and I were driving here this evening, I made the comment that Trinidad and Tobago is the land where the fast lane is the slow lane. I think you know what I'm talking about. Driving down the Solomon Hope Troy, everybody's in the fast lane, and the slow lane is empty. So my first point, let us start by following the rules. Don't wait on the government to make us follow the rules. Let us start by following the rules. The second point I like is a challenge. Can anybody in this room name 5 items in this room that are made in Trinidad and Tobago? I could only identify one, and that's the content of the water bottle. We need to start making things in Trinidad and Tobago if we're going to save this economy, and stop importing everything, adding a markup and sell it. Let's start making things in Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Denin. Any other comments, questions? I don't want to tell you all, you know, but don't be bashful. There must be something you have. Please, sir.
Good evening, everybody. Michael Rampol. This is a challenge for former Minister Fazal Karim. I heard the new police commissioner said about crime. She's a mother, she's a woman. That we women must start training our sons at home when they are small to prevent crime. I want to see a political party somewhere, somehow, come up with a formula to work at the school level with some moral input from the religious bodies. Because I too believe that in the formative years, no matter where they are, crime, like we see in school indiscipline, starts off with fighting, thieving, small things, and graduate at a higher level. So I would like to see Father Karim and the people come up with some model where we could tackle the development and the stemming of crime at the elementary school age. But you must have a model to bring it right up into secondary school. Because by the time you're 10 and 12, you see what's going on. They're pulling knives, guns, fighting, beating parents. And that doesn't happen overnight. The indiscipline starts from very small. Now, sometimes with single mothers, they really can't do everything. So that's why I'm suggesting a model at school involving the community, the church, and the parents to stem, whatever religion you belong to, they must have the appropriate religious instructions at that level. Have a combined body, Christian, Hindu, Muslim. If you're Muslim, we count you on a Muslim basis. If you're Christian, we count you on a Christian basis. But it must be a combination at the elementary school, less than 5 years or thereabout, to try to break the scourge of crime. Thank you.
Yes, it's getting warmer. Do we have any other comments, questions? Now, I don't want to tell you, this is not the normal political party. So if you don't get up and ask questions, I will come and point to you and say you must have a question.
Good night, everyone. Mushtaq Mohammed. I came in also a little bit late, so I don't know if it was dealt with earlier. However, I think we're talking about when we get there. My thing is, how are we going to get there? To talk about unite, I want to know how we unite. And I hope we don't intend to unite everybody, because we don't want to unite somebody, if you know what I'm talking about. So my thing is about the country has two demographics in terms of politics. And we have, over the last 10 years, tried different formulas to unite, tried different formulas to convince 1 tell 5, 5 tell 25, but that hasn't worked. So I would love to be part of the strategy. I would love to see this idea go forward. I am one for good governance, eradication of corruption, good healthcare system, and everything. And all the plans that we can talk about here. And I think the plans are to convince that everybody that we can do it. But the day of our election, that convincing must be translated into votes. And I want to know, what is our plan? How are we going to convince 350,000 people so that we can go into government?
Good point. Any other points, questions? Sir.
A pleasant good afternoon, everyone. My name is David John. I am part of an organization known as the Grassroots Foundation. What I have to say is going to be very short, in that our problem in Trinidad and Tobago is our constitution. To deal with our constitution, the country has to get rid of the PNM. Simple as that. Because the PNM is the hindrance of our constitution being reformed so that it will mold our society to carry it forward. In 1977, Dr. Williams found that the constitution had a problem, and he set up a commission. And when the report came to him, he tore it up, because he said that it was like a dagger in the back of the PNM. So he was really concerned about the survival of the PNM and not the survival of the country. So the Grassroots Foundation, over decades, have been studying our problem. And before I end, I just want to make two comparisons. One is coalition government, and the other comparison is comparing it with third-party politics. I am pleased to see this afternoon this organization called Hope. I like what I'm hearing. But we have to think seriously about the comparisons I'm speaking of. Whenever, in the past, whenever there was coalition, starting from 1983 with the accommodation, the PNM always lost. And whenever there is no coalition, but there is a third party, the PNM always wins. So we have to think very seriously. And the Grassroots Foundation, I want to say, right now we have a formula that we want to spread, and we want to dialogue with parties. And I'm closing by offering to Hope a time where we could sit down and dialogue, and we have a formula that we can look at. If it has to be tweeted, it will tweet, and let us get rid of the PNM so that the country can go forward. Thank you.
Any other points?
Hello, good afternoon. Sorry for reaching so late. My name is Anthony Williams. I'm from Point 410. Unfortunately, the taxi driver dropped me by the wrong community center, and I had to walk from Laramie to here. Right? So I want to ask these questions, being from South Point 410, and the issues with we border, where we have a set of illegal immigrants that bringing in a lot of guns and, how to say, encouraging human trafficking on my end. What is Hope position and plan to deal with the open borders in South and the illegal immigrants? The other question I want to ask, we have an issue around Trinidad and Tobago, and I don't believe it's only in Point 410, where we have diesel plants that was, that programs was put in place under the UNC but strengthened by the PNM, where we in Point 410 now drinking a high percentage of salt water coming from that diesel plant, where all our fresh water was directed to Penal, Siparia, and Debe. Atlantic Energy would have done a test on that water, and they said it is very bad for consumption. They actually put up signs within their industry encouraging their workers not to drink those water. So I would like to know what would be your position on dealing with those issues with the diesel plant, given communities that are supposed to provide clean, pure, healthy drinking water. What will be your plan? The other thing I would like to know, being from Point 410, we are oil and gas industry, right? Now, we hear a lot of comments about Guyana and Guyana this and Guyana that, right? And I have friends in Guyana, and I know Guyana's position, right? But we would have a Trintoc refinery that was doing well in Point 410, where the late Manning decided to save his seat in Petrotrin, he shut down that refinery. That refinery in Point 410 was doing bitumen, it was doing fuel, it was doing very good. But to save a political seat and destroy, the economy, Manning chose his political seat. I want to know what will be your position, seeing that we have a set of oil and gas, especially in Chatham area, Southwest Salado, out on the sea, down Point 410, the East Fields and so on, where even UNC found two oil finds down by Block Station 25, right, the closest point to Venezuela, right? Now we're seeing the government moving towards running a pipeline to Venezuela to run gas here, where they will be in control of the valve. I would like to know what is our policy to revamping we industries, getting that refinery back in we hands, because we need that refinery. That is one of the reasons the economy crashing and we have no Forex. So I would like to also know what will be our position on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Roshan Ali. I'm from the Community Reformation Network. My president, Roll Henry, is on the other side. We were, both from the, and Lutz Rampersad as well, was involved from NJAC days, ULF days. you know, and we were in the bowels of that organization with Mr. Karim as well. And I'm you know, very pleased to be facing here a man who was involved in the, you know, the bowels of, some people call that organization the beast, but nonetheless, Mr. Louis Lissing, I'm sure you would have remembered, we spoke about a year ago, and speaking of what he said, the coming together of minds of what is taking place here today. I would like to commend Mr. Timothy Hamel-Smith. I know when he spoke about that third force, that was years ago, and there were so many negative comments towards it and so on. Because what happened, the people who is enjoying the fruits of the status quo on either side, right? Once they have that narrative that a third force is only going to favor one or the other, they would always be there. And it will be interesting. I would like to find out how we got these great minds coming together. Mr. Alvarez, sorry I came in a little bit late, and the young lady, it'll be interesting for us to find out, you know, how that not so much the process, but the coming together of these brilliant minds. It's persons that I respect, it's persons that I've had conversations with about our political situation here in Trinidad as it is. My basic question is that, as in any organization and so on, my brother was talking about the grassroots organization, whilst we have the leaders there, we have a sense that there's a lot of chiefs here, but we want to know, how are we going to recruit the Indians? Right, that's the big question, because they have, with all the fantastic ideas and so on, that I know you guys are well equipped with, is how we are going to recruit the Indians there. And I call upon, once your message and what we have is something that could sell. I hope these smaller groups like ourselves and others out there, that we are able to, they could have an amalgamation of these groups, they are coming together to defeat. I don't call the PNM the enemy, no, they are not the enemy. Honestly, they are not the enemy. They are the problem. They are the problem, but they are not the enemy. In a neo-colonial state like Trinidad and Tobago, we're only 60 years old. We'll have to go through the whole motions and try to find and get it right. In 1986, One Love, we came together. But what happens repeatedly, as with the People Partnership, there's always a fixation in just getting there. And when we get there, what happens? There's no plan, there's no proper plan. There's no memorandum of understanding, there's no people sit down and trash out what is expected and what we meant to do. So when we get in there, it's important for us to know and to have to formulate it properly that this could work. 5 years, 10 years is definitely insufficient. We have to revamp the whole, you all know about the Trinidad lack of, our way of thinking and our way of governance, the way we deal with things. When you go to these government offices, it's not people from Mars, Louis, we meet in. It's your own Trinidadian neighbor there, when you're there and the poor service that we get, the policeman who giving you a hard time is your own neighbor. These corrupt people that end up there, they're coming from Mars or Jupiter, is your own Trinidadian people that when we, falling prey to inducements and so on. So whilst we were, Fazal, the name of the leader from Singapore, that's the man. We need people, we need forward-thinking leaders like that. I think coming together with the best minds is how we're going to move this country forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we have any other comments, questions? On my right, no more questions. In the middle, no more questions. On the left, no more questions or queries. Now, folks, there are a number of points raised, and I would, as it were, pass the relevant questions to the relevant people, relevant individual at the head table. But one point was raised both by Roshan Ali and I think by Michael. Is it Michael? No. Mushak. by Mr. Mohammed. How are we going to get there? And you also raised the question, how are we going to recruit membership? And I want to say to everyone present that if I am to follow all the good books, all, whether it's the Quran, the Bible, you name it, the people, the men who became prophets, started off always with small themes. My own teachings tells me that Jesus Christ, and I'm only dealing with my own, he really started off first with 2 fellas, then he got 3 fellas, then he got 6 fellas, he eventually got 12 fellas. And despite all the trials and tribulations, he and these 12 fellas set up a faith, a religion that has lasted for so many, many years, despite all the conflicts and despite all the oppression and the efforts to stifle it. And I suspect those of you who are familiar with your own religions know only too well similar experiences. So if you ask me, Roshan, if I truly believe that by the time the election bell is rung, whether Hope would have an army that is battle ready, I will say to you, just look at us as we go forward. The fact that we are here this evening and we are speaking to people who didn't know a darn thing about Hope, but after tonight you certainly would know a lot more about Hope. You would know that when the first thing when you came in, I asked you to go and register. Roshan, you register on the desk? Mr. Mohammed, you register on the desk? I want you, please, if I have to make sure and tie you here and register you, because you have what it takes to empower people to do great things. And what we are asking people to do in this political organization is to do great things. We're not asking you to do ordinary things. We are asking you to come on board now and assist us in doing the impossible, because everybody in Trinidad truly believes that if you can't beat the mustard, you can't beat the ketchup. But I am of the firm belief that the days of the mustard and ketchup are near end. And it can only happen if we all choose to do it, and we all choose to begin to get our friends to do it, that we begin to tell, when we have meals at the family table, that we discuss the issues of the day, and we put on the agenda the question of hope. That's the issue, and that's the answer. It will not happen overnight. It will not be, you see, I have seen miracles. I don't know, I remember years ago, this thing about pie in the sky? And I remember my father telling me one day, Louis, you seen any pie in the sky? And he had me looking up in the sky. And up to now, I haven't seen a pie in the sky. There's no more pie in the sky. And so we've got to do it. The only way it can be done is block by block. But believe you me, by the time the election of 2025 is called, people will see a huge wall that is representative of hope. But we could only do it, Roshan, if you come on board. We can only do it, you, Brother Williams. I'm happy to see that you finally made it out of Point 14. We can only do it if you come on board. Now, I would leave the more fundamental question to the political leader, the issue of how do we relate to other political organizations. All I can say to you at this time is our position is that we are not closing the door. We are not closing the door to working with any political institution that is in the best interest of Mother Trinidad and Tobago. I make no bones about it. We recognize that Trinidad and Tobago deserves the best. And if we can be the conduit through which we bring all the opposing forces together, we want to do that and do it well. On this occasion, when we sit down to break bread, we will be presenting a comprehensive document which illustrates the way forward, where every participating political institution will understand its specific role and responsibilities as we go forward, where every political entity will understand when the day comes and the light shines brightly on a changed Trinidad and Tobago under our political work, our joint political work, we all will understand what we have to do to ensure and to advance the organization, to ensure good governance, and not have to be worried about whether something will break up or if somebody will leave, and so on and so forth, even though these are the realities of relationships. Oftentimes we go to a nice big wedding and the couple seems to be very happy, but by the time 6 months come, they fight in. We are going to work towards ensuring that we last the first 5 years and we build on the first 5 years and get a second 5 years, because we cannot fix Trinidad and Tobago in 5 years. We need a minimum of 10 years during which we will be able to, as it were, lay the foundation for a better Trinidad and Tobago. So before you leave tonight, please, Brother Mohammed, go and register. That is how we're going to do it. I would like to refer several questions, but I know Tim would have taken his notes because I saw him taking his notes to respond to the relevant questions, or should I restate it for you? All right. I would like Tim to respond to the question of, it really has to do with crime. What is Hope going to do about human trafficking and illegal immigrants in the context of, and with specific reference to the port of Point Fortin? But I wouldn't want you to limit it to Point Fortin, because it's a national issue where we have found both the ketchup and the mustard at fault, and each playing a blame game at our expense. So, Tim, would you like to lead off on that matter? And while you're at it, also address the issue of our Constitution and what we must do with respect to the Constitution.
Thank you for giving me all those hard questions, Chairman. And
pardon? If I have a breakfast here? No. Listen to me. This is the real world, you know. Please.
so thank you most of all for you from the audience of participating in the way you did. You asked difficult questions. We don't have easy answers. So you asked the question, how, really as I understand it, how are we going to be different this time around? You've looked at the past and you say, really, the country is losing trust because they've seen these alliances break up. They've seen them dissolve. They've seen them part company. And really, what is different this time around from Hope's perspective because I have been involved in the negotiations in the past, so I know what took place. We have determined that the first thing we will do, or if not the first, and a fundamental issue that we will put at the heart of what is hope is that we will develop the policies that we feel Trinidad and Tobago needs in order to move forward from where we are. And one of those underlying things, and where perhaps people have run afoul, is you need a meritocracy. Whoever that may be, the best man or woman is who should get the job. But you know what the political parties did in the past? I want my friend and I want this. And they had no policy. They had no joint policy. So that is what we bring to the table that is different from the past. And it's why together with you, as we meet, we try to enhance our policy because we listen to what you have to say. And we put that in. And very shortly, you will find towards the end of this month or so, early April, we will have our website in which all our policies are laid out as we have them now. But that does not say that we still don't want to get your input so that we have a position when if we ever talk to somebody, this is our position, tell me what is yours. The problem is I haven't heard a position from any other party. So presumably they have to accept what Hope has put forward. But I am always open to debate, discussion, because I understand that when many voices get together, a better outcome is arrived at than what any one person brought to the table. Many voices make a difference. So that is a question in terms of what should be different this time around. There is a couple of things, maybe if I step out of my crease a little bit, Mr. Chairman, if you will allow me. You know, Dr. Rampal raised the question.
Political leader, I just, we have a responsibility to leave here by 9 o'clock.
All right, Chairman. I will just mention this because what people have forgotten perhaps is we had an organization named, or we still have, an organization named Serval. So we look at the education system coming out of Sweden, and we say it's the best in the world. Why Trinidad can't be like that? Do you know Serval was awarded the Alternative Nobel Peace Prize out of Sweden for the education system that Father Jerry Pantin through Serval had created? So why couldn't, in fact, if that was having the influence that it can have, if it was getting the resources, because these things don't come cheap. And one of the platform positions of the Hope is that we will use NGOs in order to accomplish those things which no government in no part of the world can accomplish, where you need a one-on-one basis. And it's those policies which started nursery care, primary care. They dealt with character education, which the spiritual component of it makes a difference. And perhaps if that were allowed to flourish the way Father Pantin intended it to be, we wouldn't have the gangs that we have, because people would have had an opportunity to not discover, and to fulfill their potential. And that's where they fell short. That's why I'm going to gangs, because there's no other route out. So, given the chairman's requirement that I keep short, I maybe just mention, I had talked about engaging forensic investigators in our assault on crime and corruption, and that would leave the police more time to do what they have to do, but the high-level crime. But perhaps you had missed that part of it. So if I just say that, Chairman, and I will bow and take my seat. Thank you.
Okay, good people. we would respond to the remaining concerns articulated tonight on our website. Now, I want to say to you, when you go to the website, you will see it is under construction. But that will be up and running shortly. We will, if you will give us your name and your email address and what have you and phone contacts, we will be in touch with you to provide you with follow-up, feedback, and developments as we go forward. It is crucial that we get that information as we seek to expand the work that we are doing. David John, don't feel for a minute that you're going to get away with what you said. I am going to be personally in touch with you to follow up on how do we take the relationships forward with your organization. That having been said, I want to thank all of you who came out from far and from near to this very important meeting here in this very, very beautiful community center. I understand the name of this community center is Gulfview Community Center. Gulfview Community Center. I had it written, but I can't find the note. Let me say to you also that I want to ask you to do me one favor, and this is perhaps how we could begin to fix Trinidad and Tobago. Part of our responsibility is to leave here at 9 o'clock. We also have a responsibility to put back all the chairs and tables. That is the conditionality, one of the conditionalities under which we got the hall rented. So when you finish, I'd like you to get up and take your chair and put it in that room to the back there. The guys in the back there will show you how to put the chair. I'd be really grateful if you could do that so we could be out of here by 9 o'clock. You have been a most beautiful audience. I would want to say that you are fellow Future Hope members, and I look forward to meeting you on the road and hoping that you will, you know how I use the word hope, hoping that you will use your own resources and persona to spread the gospel and to encourage the kind of growth that is absolutely necessary if we are to get rid of the mustard and the ketchup in this country. I say no more. Thank you very much.